Today is Friday, June 26th, I think. It might be June 27th. Not totally positive. But either way, it's Friday. This morning, I went to John Sadler's shop, which I guess now technically is Esker's shop. And I have not made a shoot from the hip video in a little while. And what I'm going to do right now, while it's as fresh as it can be in my mind, is I'm going to go over some of my notes. Okay, the first thing I want to say is there was something that John sent to my text messages that I need to look at. Today, basically, John and I went through each of my open projects. We talked about Hollister, we talked about the Campanile Kitchen, and then we talked about Carlo. And we just shifted through KCD and kind of got on the same page. I feel very confident that he has everything the way that it's supposed to be for those jobs. So that is basically the main purpose of why I went to the shop today. However, lots of other subtle background things occurred because I was at the shop and just got a better sense of the reality of our industry. So, and the reality of our shop. So, let's set my cruise control so I am not being as dangerous as I could be. Okay. Data collection, decision documentation, ordering decisions properly. That's something that I talked about with Grant the other day. I've got another page. Okay, that's what that was. Okay, this particular page of notes, this first page of notes, what it was is Grant was trying to help me figure out where my bottleneck was. And he keeps saying that he thinks it's my price, and I just know that right now it's not my price. The thing that's holding me back from pushing to the next level is I don't have a good way to collect data. I don't have a good way to document the decisions that my customers make, and I don't know how to order the decisions properly that I need out of my clients. So super basic stuff that I've been limping along without having some of those things figured out, but now I need to go figure those things out so that we can actually grow and scale and fix and change and all that. So that was something I talked to him about the other day. Yesterday I met with Michelle and we started going over Google Workspace. I'm excited about it. There's a couple things that I'm actually pretty picky and particular about. One of them is the website that she got for us was tcg-designs.com, and I don't want that. I want tcgdesign.com, or I want something different, but I don't want the dash in there. I don't want to have to explain the dash. It's easier to explain TCG Design SB to my custom at tcgdesignsb.com is easier than tcg-design.com. It's not what I want, but it's a small thing, but it's important to me. So we're going to deal with that another time, but that is the biggest thing holding me back from pushing forward on Workspace. I know it's simple and stupid, but that's one of the main things. The other main thing would be Russell Brunson is honestly the biggest main thing. I don't know if Google Workspace is the right format for me. I honestly think I might, if I'm going to learn something, because it seems like I have to learn Google Workspace if that's the route that I'm going to go. If I'm going to learn something, I'd rather learn Russell Brunson's thing, because I actually, I don't know, I'm starting to actually like him. I'm starting to actually believe the stuff he's talking about, and I'm starting to actually think that that might be the right direction as opposed to Google Workspace. But that's okay. I'm gonna not worry about that for a little bit. have a list of stuff that Michelle wanted me to talk to her about, or to talk to John about. One of them was if he has a catalog that he uses to help him sell cabinets with customers, and John said he doesn't. If he has a list of standard Charles McMurray stuff, that was something that I wrote down, and he does. And there's some good, I learned some good stuff on Charles McMurray today. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then door styles was another thing that Michelle wanted me to make sure that I touched on. Moving on to the next page of notes. Something I really need to do is to do headings. And one of the main things on the headings was John wants me to make sure that I put PF, which stands for pre-finished. He really wants me to make sure that that's in my heading. I really just need to have something I can copy and paste to stick into the heading that clearly communicates this is a Nate Johnson job, and these are the things that we do as a standard on Nate Johnson jobs. That is one of the main ones, would be pre-finished boxes is really what that's all about. Soft close is also very important. The paint color needs to go into the job heading. The shaker and the door style, the shaker needs to go into the job heading. That's just some of the simple stuff that needs to go, like the door style needs to go into the job heading. But that probably is one of the most important things, that I need a form that can be filled out that is all the information that goes into the job heading. And that's probably the first primary form that needs to get filled out is, hey, here's a form, go fill this out so I can fill out my job heading. Basically, it's like, what's your name? What is your job address? All of the other stuff, the basic stuff is like, hey, you're gonna have soft close, or you're gonna have painted, or you're gonna have a stained wood. Like, what is the material that we're using is a super basic first step that needs to be answered. And then also, like, what is the door style? And like, do you want them inset? Some of that basic stuff that needs to get fed into the job heading, that is what the upfront customer form is that needs to get created. So that's one part of it. The next part of it, and maybe there's stuff in that customer upfront form that, like, if they can't answer certain questions, it's just a clear, obvious, we are not going to entertain this particular job. So that's an interesting thought, an interesting thing. Okay, on these next pages of notes, I basically have a bunch of information from Charles McMurray. I have John's Lazy Susan. I, as a standard, am always going to use the maple Lazy Susan instead of the plastic Lazy Susan. I just won't do the plastic Lazy Susan moving forward. I refuse to do it. And I wrote down the part number that I can look it up on Charles McMurray, how to actually find that. For tray dividers, John just builds them in the shop, but there are options on Charles McMurray, so that's a good thing that I should go through with Michelle. False front trays, that's another good thing that I should probably, false front trays, John showed me the ones that he likes. They're these plastic ones that have end caps on them. And basically the purpose of them is that you can customize the length and the size. But they have other ones, they have the tin ones, and John's recommendation is don't use the metal ones because they're not perfectly waterproof. and it'll start leaking through the corners, because that's just how the metal's folded together and all that. So that was his main recommendation on why he likes the white plastic ones as opposed to some other type for those false front trays. The laundry hamper, he always builds them in the shop. He recommends that you have 24 inches of space for those laundry hampers. There were some cool options on Charles McMurray though, so that is a thing that I really want to go through and go over with Michelle. Let's pick a good laundry hamper let's get a good 3 options for a laundry hamper, because I want to not have too many options, but I do want to have a few options. Yeah. Let's see, what else? The hamper wire type, that's kind of what I was just talking about. He's got different ones for that. I wrote down the trash pullout. I actually have come to this conclusion on my own, not even just from John, but I like them when the mounting bracket is up higher, so then when you're pulling the trash can out, it's pulling from the brackets that are on the top, instead of you're pulling on the top, but the drawer glides are on the bottom, because that just kind of twists the cabinet drawer. I don't like that. I like the ones, I'm going to be very specific moving forward with which trash can setups I actually like better. It's very important to me moving forward. The tall pantry pullout, he sent me the information on those. It's interesting because there's certain sizes that work and other sizes that don't. They have ones that are specifically sold on Charles McMurray, and that's important to me. I want to make sure that I do those moving forward instead of something else. Back up to the trash can real quick. It was interesting to see that the servo trash can that Andy sent me for the carload job, the price tag on that was $1,300. The same exact mechanism is on Charles McMurray, and with our discounts and whatever, we get it for $700. So that's a cool little interesting tidbit that, hey, look at that. I can do a servo trash can, and I know that I can charge $2,200 for it, $22 extra for it, but it really only is going to cost $1,100 for John to do it, because it's $700 and some bucks for the 18-inch one. It's $600 and some bucks for the 15-inch one, and the mechanism is sold through Charles McMurray, and I can get a better deal on it. So that was cool. That was interesting. I liked that a lot. Additionally, let's see. The glass rack, they build that in the shop. That's for like the wine glasses that go upside down. I've never sold one of those before, so it's not really on the top of my radar. But stuff that's outside my normal, it can be done, but it needs to be thought through, and a special price for that item can be given separate. Utensils and spice racks, those are built in the shop, but they also have ones on Charles McMurray, and John likes to build them himself because he saves a little bit of money by building them himself. I kind of don't like that. I kind of like the idea of buying it from Charles McMurray, although there is a good point that, yeah, there is a good point. He showed me what the wire is for that as well. So when I'm confused at what that means later, I can come back to this video and I can watch this video and understand that. But the utensil and the spice rack, they build those ones in the shop, which is different from the utensil, the tray divider. They also built that in the shop. And there's items for all those on Charles McMurray that I can go look at and purchase and decide, but I need to go think that one through a little bit harder before I pick a direction with it. The tray pull-out, the ideal size, according to John, is a 15-inch cabinet, I think. A 15-inch cabinet. But there's a range of sizes that I can do with that, from 12 up to 17, or I don't remember what he said. I can ask him that question again some other time. But the tray pull-out, I was under the impression we were trying to get all these things at 9 inches. But it turns out a tray pull-out, I've got a lot more flexibility, and it doesn't super matter what the size is. With the utensil and the spice rack, the ideal opening, John says, is 8 inches, which would mean that's a 9.5 inch cabinet, or sorry, a 9.5 inch cabinet. Or if you are cutting off one side, it's only 8 3/4. But that's what he says, that the ideal size for those is on the smaller side. That's a good way to do it. I can do pullouts in KCD. That's a very important thing that I learned. Also, I learned that for Wolf and Sub-Zero, they have a website called Reveal or Revel, I don't know what it is, Revel Appliance Specs, but I can actually pull just the specific specs that are important for the cabinet job. I can get all of those by myself in one spot on this Revel site, specifically for Sub-Zero and Wolf stuff. So that's interesting. Maybe there's another website that I can put in any appliance from any different place, and then get one completed appliance spec package that works for my purposes. That would be interesting, but I'm going to look more into Revel at some other point. At the very end, I started asking John questions from the catalog that Michelle showed me yesterday. I kind of asked him, hey, like, what's our main stuff? Shaker, flat panel, we do some raised panel. He's got a new beaded shaker, which is basically just a shaker door, and we bevel our edges of our shaker 5 panel of our outside panels. We bevel that 15 degrees. So then when you put this rounded, it's just basically a dowel. It's what it sounds like. When you put this dowel in there, there's an interesting little reveal all the way around that apparently is getting more and more popular. So that's an interesting beaded shaker. That's what that means. I need to get Esker to make me a sample of that one. There's also thin shaker, with which John said he doesn't really do much of that, but I have been hearing from lots of people that seems to be what's coming back. And if Michelle and I decided on something that John doesn't currently make, we can get a Grizzly cutter head for our routing table that can create whatever it is that Michelle and I decide. These are the 6 door styles we want, and these are the samples we want of these 6 door styles. These are the ones we're gonna do, and that's it. Once we decide whatever that is, it's just about making sure John has the right cutter heads, and if it's something that he doesn't currently have a cutter head for, I just need to go and find the right cutter heads for us, or tell him to help him pick the right cutter head based on what I want. So that was what that note was about. That was it. Additionally, I went inside to go talk to, Esker wasn't there, so I talked to David. David is one of my favorite people that work at the shop. I talked to David through some of like hey, I understand what I do on my end, but then when John sends it to you, there was a set of plans sitting there. When John sends it to you, what do you actually do with this? What is it? How do you actually pull the information out? What actually happens and what's making sense and what's actually working, and like, help me understand. I don't understand. Help me understand. So that was something that was interesting. I probably need to do some more of that moving forward. Also, I walked through a bunch of stuff with David and just kind of picked his brain about certain things, so that was fun and interesting. Overall, I feel a lot more confident. I feel a lot better. I feel a lot smarter. I feel like I learned some good stuff. I had a lot of good time with John today. I had some good time with David today. I dropped off a sink for Hollister, which, speaking of which, I need to remember to call Esker and tell him what I did with that sink. One of his guys that I don't know actually put it on a cart for me and wheeled it in, and I don't know how that's all turning out. But anyways, closing thoughts. Overall, it was a really good day. The drive is not that bad. I don't really care. It's not that big a deal. I'm gonna have more commentary when my wife tells me how terrible her day was, because I've been gone and it's 6:37 and I'm just finally getting home, and I haven't been home all day. I worked a 12-hour day today, 12-plus hour day today. I guess final other closing thoughts. I watched a bunch of Russell Brunson stuff today. He has his Marketing Secrets AI. He's got an app, but I don't know that you can actually use his AI infrastructure through your cell phone app. I think you have to do it on the computer, which is interesting. But I use my computer so much now that I'm pretty used to using stuff on the computer as well as I use it on my phone. I've kind of been using it even more so on the computer than anywhere else. But some of the videos that I watched today, I'm starting to learn more and more about what he's talking about. And he's talking about very clearly and very simply a lot of the conclusions I've already come to through my own thinking, or through Myron's influence, or through just, I don't know, like as I'm processing more and more through my current business and what I want my future business to be, I think Russell's whole thing is good and important, and I like it. And I want to, I don't know. I want to make sure my next career switch is a smart one, because I want to be working in the same field and keep offering more and different value in the same field. And if it's construction, I gotta decide. That's what I'm sticking to. If it's something different, it can be something different, but I don't know what to pick if it's something different. So all that to be said, I've really been enjoying listening to Russell's stuff. He's a Mormon, which he believes in God. He believes in a God, but he's a Mormon, not a Christian, so that's a factor. I like Myron better, but part of it is Myron wants me to be a coach, or like have some sort of, I don't know, maybe Russell and Myron are saying the same thing and you can take the same principles, but I can't take all of the principles and apply them to what I'm currently doing. So that's the interesting, difficult part of the whole situation. I need to at least shift what I'm doing to better fit these principles that I'm learning from Russell and that I'm learning from Myron. And I think that they are teaching two faces of the same coin. from slightly different perspectives. I think Russell's is a little bit less narrow. Myron's is a little bit more narrow. And you still can apply what you learn from Myron in any business, but it's a little bit more difficult to see how, because his is more specifically geared towards coaching stuff and things of that nature, where Russell, it just like in my limited amount of research and understanding, it seems like Russell physical products are possible with what Russell's talking about. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to go upstairs and go hang out with my family. I'm sure that there's stuff that I missed, but I'm glad that I at least got 26 minutes worth of thoughts out there before I put a bow on this day.